Thank you for downloading this RealAgriculture podcast. Excite your crops with inputs from Excite Bio. Access nitrogen and phosphorus with Excite Bio's lineup of inoculants and ag biologicals. Since 2010, they've been helping farmers harness the power of the soil. Learn more at excitebio.ca. That's XITEBIO.ca.
Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio, of course, on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. It is Canada's Ag Day today, so there are get-togethers across the country. One of the main ones, of course, is happening in Ottawa. One of the keynote speakers is Murad Al-Katib. He is president and CEO of AGT Foods. Murad, how's it going?
Yeah, it's great. Nice day in Ottawa today.
Absolutely. Here in the middle of February, which is hard to believe. So today you're going to be keynoting to the audience about nourishing the future, Canada's impact on global food security. Of course, coming out of the pandemic, food security is a topic very much being discussed, as well as affordability for that matter. In your opinion, as somebody that is, doing business really in the food sector around the world, what role does Canada play in global food security?
Well, I think, what we're going to talk about today at the Ag Day in Canada is that, Canada's importance is actually growing. And, when we turn around and talk about that affordability and the food inflation, we're at a position now in the world where, we may be in recent history or maybe in history overall, we haven't had more people facing food insecurity than we face today. And, that affordability piece, Sean, food inflation and the price of food is high on the minds of every foreign government in the world. And I think that, we recognize that the lack of arable land and water is the two scarcest resources in the world, and Canada has an abundance of those resources. And, when I look at, kind of the importance going forward, whether it be Canada's geopolitical importance, our ability to, have a voice at the table, as world economies grow and our economy is not growing as fast, we need something to make sure we're very relevant. And food and agriculture is really that key weapon, that Canada has. So we're a societal solution, to that food insecurity. And I think that, climate change is playing into that, in that our variability, it hasn't felt like it, let's say in Saskatchewan and out west with the droughts of 3 consecutive years. But, we certainly have a more reliable production system than almost any other jurisdiction in the world. We're getting colder as it's getting to harvest. We're not getting hotter. And that gives a lot more tolerance to drought and a lot more reliability on crop. And I think that's, kind of a high level importance, is that land and water availability.
So this is how we see ourselves, right? You just said it, and I've heard it from others that, Canada has this massive opportunity to play this big role. As you talk to customers, people around the world, do they see Canada that way, or is there a gap?
Well, definitely they're seeing Canada that way. I mean, again, I had a very proud moment a couple of months ago. Some of the very first trucks that rolled through the humanitarian corridor to Gaza were AGT trucks, taking, Canadian products to the Palestinian refugees. When I look at our refugee relief programs, government procurement programs, Algeria, Iraq, Kuwait, Egypt, the governments of the world are looking at Canada as a reliable source. It's a direct source, direct to the farm. It's a reliable source year after year after year as they fight food inflation, as they go to subsidized distribution of basic commodities to stabilize, their growing in food insecurity. These are, again, part of the world looking at Canada as that societal solution. And, we've taken a view that a Canadian company, that AGT has become, we have to have global supply chains. We have to be linked. We have to have, freight options out of Canada, both in container and in vessel. We have to have warehouses, processing facilities, repacking facilities in key jurisdictions like Turkey that is close to the refugees and close to the, conflicts that we're seeing around the world. So Canadian connectivity to global value chains is a big part of that societal solution. And, again, that's something that we're trying to play a role in, and something that, you see a number of other Canadian companies playing into today.
One of the things that does concern me is and it's not in all countries that we're dealing with, but there is somewhat of a more political flair to talk about being protectionist. And as a company or as a country like Canada that is very, very export reliant from a GDP perspective, and you've talked about the opportunities in front of us, how big of a threat is protectionism to Canada's ability to deliver on this, seizing the moment in terms of fulfilling some of the opportunities with global food security?
I think we have to recognize one thing. Agriculture is the most political business in the world, in that governments all over the world have an obligation to protect their farmers. And so, domestic agricultural policy is always clashing in many cases with food insecurity and food inflation. So, imagine you're a foreign government wanting to keep prices high to benefit your rural economy where a lot of the votes are in a lot of these countries. And at the same time, you're fighting food inflation. So that's, kind of the clash of policy that we end up, facing. And I think that, the key for Canada is to have a diversified set of markets. We can't be so reliant only on China and India, as major markets for our agricultural commodities. We have to have a basket so that if one large country pulls out, we have to have another way to access that market. Let's look at the canola crisis in China. Anyone who thinks that a lot less canola went into China during the canola crisis from Canada isn't looking at the trade flows. Our trade went to the roof in the UAE, and our canola was going there, and canola oil from the UAE was going to China. Okay, so, again, global value chains insulate us against the geopolitical and policy changes that we see. Look at the India policy. This year, first year, peas were reallowed for import from January to March. Why? They need the product. So we're going to see kind of a hybrid policy. We're going to see, I think, more markets reacting like Turkey, where they restrict imports from May until September every year at the time of their crop. And so they do that to protect their domestic ag. Their prices are high during those periods. And then they allow import to regulate prices for food security and food inflation. So we're going to see kind of hybrid policies that are going to be balancing those two policy objectives. But the key is, Sean, we can't put all our eggs in one or two baskets, because then those governments have too much impact on our agriculture.
Yeah, well put. Now, I know that it's no secret, Murad, you're a very influential person in all of this space in the Canadian market, and people listen to what you're saying. Let's just say the Prime Minister invites you into a cabinet meeting and says, "Okay, Murad, we hear you. Great opportunity in front of us. What do we need to do as a country?" What are you telling them?
Well, I guess I'm fortunate. I've had the opportunity to sit with the Prime Minister recently and talk about the opportunity in agriculture. And, I think that, there's a strong recognition across all party lines, which I think is the best part of where agriculture sits today. Whether you're a liberal or you're a conservative, today there's a recognition that agriculture is a sector that is delivering immediate economic growth and opportunity for Canada. When I chaired the National Strategy Table for Agriculture and Food, we set the target to take exports from 45 billion to 85 billion by 2023. The sector met the target in 2021, 2 years ahead of our target. And when we set 85 billion, it was a very lofty target, is what people thought. So, how many sectors of our economy can deliver 40 billion of new economic output in a short 3-year period? So there's a recognition that it's about jobs and economic opportunity. The second thing is that as we look at the new green, clean economy, agriculture is a major polluter. Okay, so don't get worried, because I'm in agriculture. We're also society's solution to climate change. We're one of the major solutions. So when we take digital agriculture and we put it over top of, smart fertilization, zero minimum tillage, and data-based precision farming, the carbon intensity of agriculture in Canada, with the scale of our agriculture, has a massive opportunity to decline. So we are, in a position where not only are we a societal solution to food security, we're also a societal model for climate change and sustainability. And I think that's going to bode well. And that's, what I would tell the Prime Minister. And I actually say, if I was Prime Minister for a day, I would invest $100 billion over the next 3 or 4 years to improve the trade infrastructure of Canada,
Yeah.
because we have to move goods to market. And when we look at, the Western Canadian economy, agriculture, critical minerals, and the energy sector are major drivers of the, overall economic well-being of all Canadians, not just those of us in Western Canada.
Yeah, you can have customers around the world, but if you can't get the product to them when they want it in time, then you've got a major gap.
Absolutely. I mean, this is all about reliability. It's all about
Yeah.
all the things that we need. So, trade infrastructure is something that, I think government has made some small steps in, but, again, we need to do more.
And we know this is there's an opportunity here. I think too we also need to make sure we're fighting complacency, like because there's a trap here where we're like, we're awesome. We've got we're the breadbasket. We've got all this opportunity in front of us. We need to fight complacency and continue to charge ahead to make sure that we do seize this, right?
Yeah, I think that there's, here's where I think we've got a strong defense there, is that our farmers have proven time and time again, Sean, that they are early adopters of technology. And so, again, as long as that innovation pipeline continues to move along, farmers are showing how quickly they can commercialize. I mean, we've taken 2 kilograms of seed and turned it into 200,000 acres of a new pulse, as an example. Like,
Yeah.
Again, you can't do that in other countries. So, again, that's where I have an optimism that complacency won't come because of work ethic and because of that early adopter of technology mindset. And the family farm today is changing. I mean, the scale continues to grow. And, again, I haven't seen so many young faces, MBAs, college educated, and, very, very intelligent business people running Canadian farm family businesses today. That's going to help us.
Well put. Murad, great to catch up with you. All the best today in your keynote. It's great to chat. Always learn so much from you, and all the best of luck and continued success with AGT Foods.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.